Welcome back to the Deep Dive Learner. Today we are handing you a pair of X-ray glasses for the internet. Think about the last time you bought something you didn't even know you wanted off of Instagram.
Oh, yeah, we have all been there.
Right. You're like lying in bed, scrolling past pictures of your friends, and suddenly you're entering your credit card info for I don't know, a posture correcting back brace or a fancy new coffee subscription. You probably thought it was just a spontaneous choice, right? Like a moment of late night weakness.
That is exactly what they want you to think.
Exactly. Well, what if I told you that your spontaneous purchase was actually stage 6 of a highly engineered, completely invisible psychological trap?
It's a sobering thought for sure, but it is the reality of the modern web. We really like to believe we're just casually, independently browsing, but almost every click, every scroll, and obviously every purchase is part of a very deliberate, mathematically structured journey. I mean, nothing you see from a successful brand is left to chance.
And uncovering that hidden machinery is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're unpacking the ultimate guide to digital marketing. It's this massive, comprehensive playbook from the team at Digital Marketer. Our goal is to really demystify how businesses engineer these online purchasing paths.
Yeah, we want to hand you the actual blueprint.
Right. Whether you're an entrepreneur trying to acquire customers and grow your own business, or you're just a curious consumer who wants to know why you keep falling for those targeted ads, this deep dive is definitely for you.
It's honestly the perfect source text to start with because it forces us to establish the big picture right away. The fundamental truth of this guide is that modern digital marketing isn't actually about the digital part at all.
Wait, really? What is it about then?
It's just fundamental marketing. It's human psychology. People get so distracted by shiny new tech trends or whatever algorithm update Google rolls out this week. But at its core, this entire ecosystem is simply about building mutually beneficial relationships with human beings.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the ultimate goal is building a real relationship, you obviously can't just skip to the end of the process.
No, you definitely can't.
I mean, you wouldn't walk up to a complete stranger on the sidewalk and ask them to co-sign a mortgage with you. You need a map to get from total stranger to loyal friend. And that concept leads us directly into the foundational framework of our source material. They call it the customer value journey.
Yeah, the customer value journey, or CVJ, is essentially the master template. Everything else we talk about today, every ad, every blog post, every email, is just a tool built to support this exact template.
So what does this template actually look like?
Well, the source lays out 8 intentional, highly specific psychological stages that every single prospect goes through. It starts, quite logically, with step 1, which is awareness.
Makes sense. They have to know you exist.
Exactly. A person simply has to realize your business is there. The guide uses the example of a father scrolling through Facebook and seeing an ad for Canary security cameras. A minute prior, he didn't know the company existed. Now, a neural pathway has been created. He's aware.
But awareness alone doesn't pay the bills, right? I mean, I am intimately aware of luxury yachts, but I'm certainly not buying one anytime soon.
Right. Which brings us to step 2, engagement.
Yeah.
You can't just wave at someone. You have to start a conversation and provide some kind of immediate, frictionless value.
Like what? What does that look like?
ModCloth, the vintage-style clothing retailer, does this brilliantly. Instead of just showing you a dress, they offer a "what's your wedding guest" style quiz.
Oh man, I've definitely fallen for those. Why are quizzes so effective at this stage?
Because they require a micro-commitment. The user gets a quick dopamine hit of self-discovery, finding out their unique style, while the brand gets the user actively interacting with their digital ecosystem rather than just passively scrolling by.
That makes total sense. And then from there, the relationship has to deepen, which is step 3, right? Subscribe.
Yes. This is where you offer something of higher value, but it sits behind a gate. You exchange it for contact information. Salesforce, for example, might offer a highly detailed 40-page white paper on cloud computing trends, but to read it, you have to hand over your email address.
Right. I've heard marketers call that the ethical bribe. You aren't tricking the consumer. You're offering genuine, upfront value as a fair trade for the privilege of entering their inbox.
That's a really great way to put it. Email addresses are essentially digital currency, and once they have paid that currency and subscribed, we arrive at step 4, which is convert.
And this is a really critical stage.
It is, and it involves probably the most counterintuitive rule in all of business. The convert stage is absolutely not about profitability.
Right.
It is solely about acquiring buyers with low-barrier entry point offers. The guide points to GoDaddy offering a new domain name for just $2.95.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you right there. If GoDaddy is selling a domain for $3 and they spent like $5 on advertising just to get you to click the ad, they're losing money on that transaction. How does this business model not just instantly bankrupt them?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of the transaction. The absolute hardest thing to do in business is to get a consumer to open their wallet for the very first time. It requires a massive leap of trust.
Right, because you don't know if they're legit yet.
Exactly. So by offering a $2.95 deal, GoDaddy completely removes the financial risk. The goal isn't to make money right then. The goal is to fundamentally alter the relationship. You're no longer a prospect. You are a buyer. They have changed your neural pathway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, once that initial friction is gone, getting you to spend $50 on website hosting next month is infinitely easier. The profits come later, entirely based on that initial $3 trust-building exercise.
That is a wild psychological shift. It completely changes how I view heavy discounts.
Yeah.
But let's keep moving through the journey. Once they buy that $3 domain, what happens next?
Step 5 is excite. You have to ensure the customer gets immediate tangible value from that first small purchase. Otherwise, they'll never buy again. Evernote handles this perfectly. When you sign up, you don't just get dropped into an empty app.
Right. You get a whole onboarding process.
Exactly. You get a carefully crafted email series giving you quick, easy wins and tips on how to organize your life. And once they're actually using and enjoying the product, you reach step 6, ascend.
And this is where the company finally gets out of the red and actually makes a profit.
Precisely. You offer your core products and relevant add-ons. It's like Southwest Airlines offering you a $15 early bird check-in upgrade after you've already booked your flight. You already trust them to fly you, so spending another $15 to get a better seat feels like a natural improvement to your experience.
While drastically increasing Southwest's transaction value. That leads us to the final 2 steps, which seem similar but have a distinct difference. Step 7 is advocate, and step 8 is promote.
Yeah, the difference really comes down to passive versus active behavior. An advocate is a happy customer who speaks positively about your brand if they are asked. DSW Shoes achieves this simply by emailing recent buyers a few days after delivery, asking them to write a quick star review.
Okay, and a promoter.
A promoter actively spreads the word without being prompted, often because they're incentivized. Dropbox famously grew into a billion-dollar company through step 8. They offered users 16 gigabytes of free storage space if they successfully referred their friends.
They literally turned their user base into a massive, highly motivated, unpaid sales force, which is incredible when you view it all laid out like that. But here's where I want to bring in an analogy, because the text points out a massive trap that most businesses fall into. And to me, it sounds exactly like bad dating. Marketers get impatient. They look at this 8-step journey, and they try to move a person from being a total stranger at step 1 straight to being a raving promoter at step 8 in a single motion.
Oh yeah, the #1 mistake.
It's the equivalent of walking up to someone at a coffee shop, introducing yourself, and immediately asking them to marry you. It's not just ineffective, it causes the consumer to actively recoil. So my question is, how do businesses actually guide people from one specific psychological step to the next without being completely creepy?
By letting the customer feel like they are guiding themselves. And the vehicle businesses use to facilitate that movement is what the source calls perfect content. Content is the fuel that powers the customer value journey engine.
So what does this all mean in practice? Because when I hear the phrase content marketing, my brain immediately just pictures a company blog that nobody really reads. Are you saying a blog isn't enough to drive sales?
Well, a blog is a fantastic tool, but it's fundamentally limited by where it sits in the psychological journey. The source outlines the content life cycle, which maps directly to the traditional marketing funnel.
Okay, break that down for me.
You have 3 parts: top of funnel, or 2 of you, middle of funnel, or MOFU, and bottom of funnel, or BOFU. A blog post sits squarely at the top of the funnel. It is freely available content designed strictly for awareness and engagement.
Like Whole Foods publishing a beautiful blog post about Atlantic sea scallop recipes.
Exactly.
Right. I'll read the recipe, but that recipe doesn't magically make me pull out my credit card and buy groceries from them right that second. I'm just looking for dinner ideas.
Yes, because you're at the top of the funnel. To move you to the next stage, the brand needs middle of funnel content. This is designed for the evaluation stage. It's that cloud margin white paper we mentioned, or a downloadable checklist.
Something that requires an email address.
Right, content that requires a little more commitment because the user is actively researching a problem. But even then, they aren't ready to buy. That requires bottom-of-funnel content.
And this is where the blog totally fails.
Completely. Bottom-of-funnel content is designed solely to push an evaluating customer over the finish line into a conversion. Think of FreshBooks, the accounting software. Their BOFU content is a highly detailed, side-by-side spec sheet comparing their features and pricing directly against QuickBooks.
That makes total sense. When someone is at the bottom of the funnel, they are usually terrified of making the wrong choice. They have decision fatigue. They don't need an entertaining blog post about the history of accounting. They need a cold, hard comparison sheet to make them feel safe pulling the trigger.
That's the exact psychology at play. If your entire content marketing strategy is just publishing fun blog posts, you're going to be very disappointed with your sales because you have no bottom-of-funnel assets to actually close the deal. Perfect content has to be two things.
Which are?
It must be intent-based, meaning it anticipates exactly the type of reassurance the customer needs at that specific moment. And it must be ascension-focused.
Meaning it always provides a clear, frictionless path to the next step of the customer value journey. The source actually highlights a great example of this, a blog post about how to run Facebook ads. Right in the middle of the text, there's a clickable banner offering a downloadable Facebook ad template library.
Just a perfect transition.
Yeah. The brand anticipated the intent. You're reading about ads, meaning you probably want to run some, so they put the exact tool you need right in front of you. Boom, you've ascended from an aware reader to a subscribed lead.
And this is where the system really starts to hum. You have your 8-step journey, and you have your perfect top, middle, and bottom-of-funnel content ready to guide the prospect.
But here's the elephant in the room. You can build this pristine, psychologically perfect machine. You can stock it full of incredible content. But it is entirely useless if no one ever walks through the front door to see it. Which brings us to the lifeblood of this entire operation, traffic, specifically digital advertising.
Yes, and this is where most businesses just waste their money. Because just like content, not all traffic is created equal. The source introduces a critical concept called traffic temperature. You have cold, warm, and hot traffic, and you absolutely must match your advertising message to the temperature of the audience, or they will completely ignore you.
Let me see if I can deduce how this maps to the funnel. Cold traffic must be the people at the very top. They're the ones who need the Whole Foods recipe because they don't even know they're hungry yet. They have no idea who you are.
That is correct. For cold traffic, your advertising goal is purely indoctrination and awareness. You aren't asking for a sale. You're just saying hello. Warm traffic consists of people who know who you are. Maybe they've read a blog post, but they haven't bought anything yet.
So they're in the evaluation phase.
Exactly. Your advertising goal here is acquisition, getting them to give you their email for a lead magnet. And hot traffic. Those are your buyers, people who have purchased before or have items sitting abandoned in their digital shopping cart. The advertising goal there is pure monetization and ascension.
And to reach these specific temperatures, the guide breaks down the big 3 advertising platforms, Google, Facebook, and YouTube. And what I found really fascinating is how fundamentally different their psychological triggers are. The source compares Google to the old school Yellow Pages. It's search-based, meaning it captures existing demand. If I type in buy organic diapers, I am raising my hand and telling Google my exact intent.
Contrast that with Facebook, which functions much more like a billboard on a highway. You're scrolling through a feed, looking at pictures of your friends, and an ad disrupts that scroll. You didn't ask to see it.
No, not at all.
However, because Facebook possesses so much granular data on user behavior, that billboard is highly targeted. Facebook isn't capturing existing demand, it is generating new demand based on your demographics. And finally, YouTube operates like traditional television. The ads disrupt the video you're trying to watch.
But because it's owned by Google, you can target those video ads to be highly relevant to the specific topic the user is actively trying to learn about.
Exactly.
I really appreciate the breakdown of those platforms, but I want to bring up an analogy from the text that completely shattered how I view paying for ads. It's the water hose versus rain analogy. I talk to so many people who obsess over organic traffic, getting people to their website for free through viral social media posts or search engine optimization. And look, free organic rain is wonderful for your garden.
Of course it is.
But you cannot control the weather. You can't control if Google changes its search algorithm overnight and your organic traffic suddenly dries up. Paid advertising, on the other hand, that is a water hose.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that control is the ultimate competitive advantage in digital marketing.
Exactly. With a paid water hose, you control the exact direction the water points, you control the flow rate, and you control when it turns on and off. The brilliant mathematical reality is this. If you've built your customer value journey correctly, like if your funnel actually converts, that water hose ultimately pays for itself. You spend $1 on a Facebook ad, you acquire a customer through a $3 low barrier offer, and next week you ascend them to a $50 core product.
Paid traffic isn't a marketing expense.
Right. When the system works, it's a mathematical formula where $1 in equals $2 out.
That is the exact paradigm shift required to scale a business. You stop viewing ads as a gamble, and you start viewing them as a measurable investment with a calculated return. But, as you pointed out, having a hose is useless if you don't aim it properly. You have to make sure the water actually lands in the bucket.
Yeah, you can't just spray it everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just paying for a click and pointing a user at your website's homepage is a recipe for disaster. You have to construct a highly specific campaign.
Right. A campaign is not just an ad. It's an intentional system designed to move a specific person through a specific step of the journey. The guide uses The Honest Company as an example. They don't just run an ad that screams, "buy your diapers," and link to their homepage.
That'd be way too abrupt.
Yeah. They run a Google ad targeting the specific search intent for organic diapers. When you click it, you don't go to a product page, you go to a dedicated email opt-in page. They get you to subscribe. Then they automatically email you a coupon for 25% off your first order. They intentionally, seamlessly walked you from aware to subscribe to convert, all within one campaign.
And to build a campaign that effectively captures that traffic without losing them along the way, the source details the essential elements of a successful campaign. The first is the offer, and it is crucial to understand that the offer is not your product.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Well, the product is the physical thing you get. The offer is the unique combination of the price, the deliverables, the bonuses, and the positioning. For instance, the company Survival Life doesn't just sell waterproof lighters. Their campaign offer is a waterproof lighter for exactly 1 penny, plus shipping.
Just a penny.
Yeah. The product is just a lighter. The offer is the irresistible, psychologically baffling 1 penny deal. Why a penny? Because free doesn't require a credit card. A penny forces you to open your wallet, officially turning you into a buyer.
That is incredibly sneaky, but brilliant. Element 2 of a campaign is the copy. This is the text, the actual messaging. The guide stresses that good copy doesn't just list features. It hooks the emotion by leading with a specific visceral pain point.
Absolutely.
There's an example of an ad from a recruiting company called Hired. The copy doesn't say, "find a new tech job." It says, "if you're counting down the hours until you get to leave the office, it might be time for a change." That immediately taps into the Sunday scaries. It validates the user's misery before offering a solution.
It's basically empathy at scale. The third element is the creative, which is the visual component, the image or the video itself. The rule of thumb here is that it needs to communicate your core message visually in just 1 to 2 seconds.
So keep it simple.
The source advocates for being painfully literal. If you are offering a downloadable template, show a graphic that literally looks like a physical paper template. Don't try to be overly clever or abstract. Don't make the brain work harder than it has to, or the user will just keep scrolling.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The fourth element is AdScent. AdScent is all about congruency. It is the visual and messaging consistency throughout the entire click process. Think of it like following a breadcrumb trail in a dark forest.
We like that analogy.
Right. If you see a Facebook ad with a bright red border promising a free marketing checklist, you click it and you expect the next breadcrumb to look exactly the same. But if the landing page you arrive on is entirely blue, has a different font, makes no mention of a checklist, and is instead trying to sell you a $500 video course, those breadcrumbs just turned into pebbles.
You feel tricked.
Exactly. Your brain loses trust instantly, the cognitive load spikes, and your flight response triggers. You immediately hit the back button.
That breadcrumb analogy perfectly captures the user experience, and it highlights why AdScent is the lowest hanging fruit in digital advertising. If you just make sure your ad and your landing page use the exact same colors, the exact same imagery, and the exact same headline phrasing, you implicitly tell the user's subconscious, you are in the right place, you are safe, we delivered what we promised.
Which builds trust.
Trust is the ultimate conversion factor. If you create even a fraction of a second of doubt or confusion, the user will exit, and you've wasted the money you spent on that click.
It's amazing how something so simple like just making the page physically look like the ad can drastically lower your advertising costs simply because fewer people are bouncing off the page in confusion.
It all comes back to reducing friction. So to pull all this together and synthesize our deep dive today, what the ultimate guide to digital marketing really reveals is that successful online commerce leaves absolutely nothing to chance.
None of it.
It is a highly intentional, meticulously tracked system. From understanding the underlying psychology of the 8 distinct stages of the customer value journey, to deploying full funnel content that removes decision fatigue, to targeting specific traffic temperatures with the right emotional message, every single click is mapped out.
Exactly. And for you listening, we hope this deep dive serves as a massive paradigm shift. Whether you're a business owner trying to figure out how to reliably and mathematically acquire customers, or you're just a consumer trying to navigate the modern web, you now effectively have those X-ray glasses we talked about.
You can see the matrix.
Yes. The next time you search for a product on Google or see an ad for a penny survival lighter on Facebook or enter your email to get a free white paper, you won't just see the marketing. You'll see the machinery. You'll know exactly which step of the customer value journey you are being guided into.
This raises an important question. If every single step of our online purchasing behavior is this heavily engineered, this perfectly anticipated, and this rigorously optimized based on massive amounts of psychological data, how much of our free will as digital consumers is actually just us predictably walking down a perfectly laid out customer value journey?
Now, that is a thought that is going to stick with me the next time I randomly add something to my cart at 2 in the morning. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive, learner. Keep looking behind the curtain, keep analyzing the machinery, and stay curious. We'll catch you next time.